Is omitting the same as lying? So if we omit the truth, is that the same as lying? To me it is. There's a reason that when you walk into a court of law, they make you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Nothing that you can omit. And yet, and this is an important and yet, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks to us about tapas of speech, righteous speech, dharmic speech, spiritual speech. And that tapas of speech, that right speech, has to have three characteristics. It has to be true, but it also has to be kind and beneficial. And so simply because something is true does not mean that it should be spoken. If it is not kind and beneficial, it shouldn't be spoken. And so when we understand that and we look at that, we realize, well, okay, just because something is true, if it's not kind and not beneficial, I shouldn't speak it. This is what Lord Krishna teaches us. It's not the world I grew up in. In the West and in my life, it was always truth at all costs. Truth at all costs. Doesn't matter how much it hurts, you or the other person. If it's true, it's in the highest good. No matter what it may be, you must tell it, even if you haven't been asked. My favorite personal story on this was my last year of high school. I was 17, and my boyfriend, who was my first love, the love of my life, the soulmate that you can only have when you're 16 or 17. I mean, there's a very special quality to being in love when you're that age. But he was a year older and was going off to college in a different city. And my dad, who is a divorce attorney, and at that point had spent a few decades, now has spent many decades, divorcing people all day long, morning till night. So he and I were out to dinner in the beginning of my last year of high school. And he says to me, I can still picture the diner we were sitting in, and he says to me, so what's going to happen with you and Eric now that you're going off, that he's gone off to college? And I said, well, we're going to be together forever, of course, because we are soulmates. And I said, but we're going to have an open relationship. And my dad says, tell me about it. What does that mean? And I said, well, we're going to date other people, tell each other about it, be totally honest, and stay together forever. And so my dad says, okay, let me get this straight. You're going to date other people, tell each other about it, and stay together forever. And for me, the truth is the highest good. The truth, at all costs, truth will solve everything, vision of the world. I said, of course. And my dad, in what to me is just Parenting Hall of Fame, first place award, does not say to me, you crazy idiot. He says, well, that sounds very interesting. I look forward to hearing how that works out for you. And I love that story because 30 years in retrospect, it's so easy to realize, of course that's not going to work out. But the world that I came from was truth at all costs. Is it kind to tell your soulmate that you've been dating someone else? Of course not. Is it beneficial in the long run? Of course not. But because it was true, and because I hadn't yet read the Bhagavad Gita and didn't yet know this, we thought truth at all costs. So when Lord Krishna says it's got to be all three, now remember, truth is one of those three things. So he's not condoning white lies. He's not saying if it's kind and beneficial but untrue, you should say it anyway. Clearly the teaching is, if it's not all three of those things, be quiet. Just be quiet. And so I bring this up in response to the question because is omitting the same as lying? Well, not in that case. If you're purposely omitting something because you're afraid of the consequences, because you're embarrassed, because you're ashamed, then yeah, it's basically the same as lying. You know, it's like the kid who comes home from school and mom says, how did your math exam go today? And, you know, you say, oh, it went great. But you don't mention the fact that you also had a science exam which you failed. Well, she may not have known about it. She didn't know to ask. When she's asking about your exams, clearly she wants to know about all of the exams. You've omitted it because you'd much rather her be happy about your math exam than get in trouble for not studying science. But if you're omitting it because it's really not kind and not beneficial, then by standards much higher than the ones that I grew up with, not by my parents, by my own internal sense of the universe, then no, it's not the same. Lying is a purposeful lie. It's a sin. You know, when you look at the yamas and the niyamas of the 8 limbs of yoga that Patanjali gave us, well, the first is nonviolence, the second is truthfulness. So it's right there at the very base of living a dharmic life, a yogic life. You have to be honest. But there's plenty of situations in which silence or a smile or a change of the subject is actually the most beneficial response to the moment.